There's another really important point that you make in the book that really resonated with me, and that's the issue of addiction to abandonment.
Well, there's a condition that I call abandoholism, which is the addiction to abandonment, which is you are attracted only to unavailable people. And this is so prevalent that there are so many people who are attracted to the unavailable. And it even reaches the extreme that when somebody comes along who initially was unavailable, and then they become available, they decide, okay, you know what, I'm here for you. I'm opening my heart up. Let's be together. And that at that point, when you're a bandaholic, you tend to lose interest. And you say, well, this person has become boring, or I don't think there's no chemistry, or, he or she just isn't the right person. And what really happened there is that the person became completely available and you lost interest because unbeknownst to you, you've become, sort of addicted, so to speak, to the insecurity. You've become addicted to the hard-to-get feeling of pursuit. And by addiction, I mean it's something you've become accustomed to in a way that in order for you to feel that you're interested in someone, in order to feel, quote-unquote, love towards someone or attraction, you need to feel simultaneously insecure.
Well, that's a bummer.
It's a bummer.
I actually just went through another breakup recently. I noticed, and you also talk about this in the book, that people who tend to distance themselves and have fear of, I believe the word is engulfment, are really just the other side of the same coin of fear of abandonment.
Yes.
How does that work?
People tend to swing on a pendulum between fear of abandonment and fear of engulfment. Now, there are some people, and I'm sure you've seen this out in the dating world, who tend more toward the fear of engulfment. As soon as somebody becomes too close to them, they feel the walls closing in and they lose interest and they want out. The people who have that kind of reaction very often are highly eligible people who others want, and they seem to be pursued by others because, of course, they're hard to get. Because the minute you try to hold on to them like a bar of soap, they're slippery, and they just pop out of your hand, and so they become the desired object, okay? So there are people who tend more toward fear of engulfment, where they can't stand somebody counting on them and needing them and falling in love with them, and it makes the walls close in. The opposite of that is fear of annihilation, fear of abandonment, where you're constantly afraid of being rejected. You're afraid yet another relationship is going to fall apart because the other person lost interest. But what's really ironic or almost hilarious is that many people have both. So they have a fear of abandonment when they like the person and the person is a little hard to get. But then they have fear of engulfment the minute the other person likes them. And I'm using the word like instead of love or attraction because at the beginning we like someone. We like them instead of not like them. We like them. That's how it starts. And when we like someone, when we actually, I like him or her, that is when we want the person, and that is often when we fear the abandonment because what if they don't like us back? So this pendulum can swing between fear of abandonment and then fear of engulfment, back and forth in a wild pattern that doesn't leave very much time in between where you're having an actual relationship which is in balance because the pendulum swings to the opposite extremes.
That seems to be sort of what happened with this most recent situation. Like I met him and I liked him, and then I saw that he seemed to have this distant personality type. And right away I was like, oh no, I can't let myself like this person because I can see already what he's going to do to me. Yeah. So then I tried to push him away, and what that did is it made him want me more. And then he pursued me And I kind of gave in because the chemistry was so strong. And then we just got into this pendulum where it was just drama every few days, which every time we went through that cycle, it would both bond us more and make us more fearful.
Yeah.
And it was just a disaster.
Yeah.
How do you stop that?
This can happen so easily to so many people. They ricochet back and forth. So you saw abandonment coming down the pike, so you decided to short circuit and drop out, and then that made him pursue you and back and forth, and it's a ricochet effect. And it's, of course, it's very painful because you know what it does. It creates in that couple a seesaw up and down, back and forth pattern, which is painful, and therefore the relationship you can get stuck in something like that, especially if it goes back and forth and it's not one side wanting the other side more consistently. If it's sort of, you take turns, that can be a very stuck pattern, that it goes back and forth.
It was interesting because we went through this pattern a couple of times, and I was trying to explain to him, like, look, I can see where this is going. And he was saying, well, you're not giving me a chance. And I kept defending my position. And then as soon as he started to be on board with, yeah, it's a good idea that we end it, I felt myself coming onto his side where maybe we should try again. And so then we completely switched. It was just, but this is the cycle, and it is an addictive cycle.
It's very addictive, and it even involves, it's addictive not just psychologically, but it involves the body's opiates. You know, we produce our own opiate-like substances. Well, they're opioids, they're called, and they're the endorphins and other enkephalins and various opiates. And when we're going through the upheaval in a relationship like that, we have attachment and then separation, attachment, separation. The opiates in the body are produced, and we actually become addicted to the cycle. So it isn't just psychologically. We're actually looking to regain our homeostasis by staying in a painful cycle.
Oh, it's so brutal. And I imagine that because what I'm noticing is now it's been a few days, and I start to feel a bit calmer. And then if we have any contact again, like I can just feel it. It's like having a cigarette after you've quit smoking.
Yes, it's toxic. You can after you've quit smoking, you can actually feel almost sick from smoking the cigarette, but excited at the same time. It's sort of like, yes, it's the sort of toxic flavor that I love. So it's that contact becomes so significant, and it is that makes it just like an addiction. Because look what happens to the alcoholic when they have been, in recovery for a while, and then they have a slip, and they have alcohol. Oh, it is the most incredible slip, because it leads to such an extraordinary feeling of drunkenness and overindulgence, because the alcoholism has exaggerated the effect of the alcohol by quitting.